let's talk about the employer-employee relationship, because it is exactly that, a relationship. And like all the best relationships, the really most healthy relationships in your life, they're almost always predicated on two founding principles. Number one is trust, and number two is reciprocity. Trust is this, well, as we've talked about, I'm sure in previous videos, it's this benevolence of intent from one person towards the other, and this confidence that the other person has your best interests at heart. It's based on knowing that the other person is credible, that they know what they're talking about, that they're reliable, that they're going to do the things they say they're going to do, when they say they're going to do them, and how they say they're going to do them, and a level of intimate connection between the two of you, in that you're open enough with each other that you can have a strong sense of what the other person means, and also what their intentions actually are. If they are selfishly self-orientated, in other words, if it's all about them, then you're less inclined to trust them than if they have your best interests at heart. Reciprocity is very simply just give and take. It's that there's some kind of a balance between what both parties get out of the relationship. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's always equality, in the sense that both of you have equal power, but you do both have equal human rights, equal dignity. So, for example, in the employer-employee relationship, very simply put, the employee exists to make the employer's life easier, and the employer exists to make the employee's life better. What do I mean by that? Well, the employee makes the employer's life easier by freeing him or her up to do other things, and thereby giving the business capacity to be able to grow and to tap into a rich breadth and density of talent that one individual, no matter how good he or she is, cannot possibly have on their own. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the employer makes the employee's life better by giving them opportunities to grow and to learn and to improve, giving them opportunities to do good and meaningful work that actually hopefully is the work of their heart and helps move them towards self-actualization, and also, not to put too fine a point on it, pays them, because we all need money in our society in order to be able to do other things, and money is typically, whilst it's an incentive, is very rarely a motivator. Motivation is intrinsic, not extrinsic. So the motivations that are intrinsic, that are usually facilitated by money, are things like security, safety, both for yourself and for your family, freedom, and the ability to go and do other things that are part of your growth in your community and in your other projects that mean a lot to you. So if you want to break this down into, I suppose, really simplistic terms and look at the jobs of the manager versus the jobs of the employee, you can sort of do a nice balancing act between the two, because on one side, the employer has really just got 5 jobs. And when I say the employer, I'm talking really about a hiring manager. I'm talking about somebody who is a manager as a technical set of roles, not necessarily a leader, but although really truly great leaders very often are pretty good managers as well. The first thing is you've got to hire the right people, which means you need to have a really good hiring strategy and a really good hiring process. The second thing is you've got to give them the tools to do the job, both the technical tools and indeed the emotional and attitudinal tools. The third thing is you've got to coach them and empower them to be able to do the things they need to do and to get fulfilled when they're doing them. The fourth thing is that you have to give them access to learning and development. And the fifth thing is you have to protect them, providing they're operating within the parameters of the values of the business, and providing they're doing everything they can do to consistently and constantly improve. You have to protect them so that they feel comfortable and psychologically safe to try things and to fail. Because it's only when somebody tries things and gets outside of their comfort zone that they start to really learn, and they typically learn by, well, making mistakes. So they need to feel like, providing they worked within the parameters that were set out, they're not going to get punished for failure. In fact, the failure to some extent will be, well, celebrated. Not, we're going to throw a ticker tape parade, but certainly celebrated in the sense of this is a great learning opportunity. Let's analyse the lessons that we've learned from it and how we can capture best practice here. On the other side of the equation, the employee also has 5 main facets to his or her role. Number 1 is they need to show up. And I don't just mean they turn up physically, they turn up mentally and everything else. This is not presenteeism. They're actually here to, well, frankly, be present and to be their best selves. The second thing is they need to, well, to put it bluntly, put a shift in. They need to actually try. There needs to be effort. So they need to show up and there needs to be effort. The third thing is they need to operate within the values of the business, which means they're not going to wind other people up. They're going to be a cultural fit. They're going to recognise not only what the values of the business are, but what it means to behave in a way that is congruent with those values. The third thing is that they need to be honest and straightforward. Now that might be implicit within the acting within accordance within the values of the business, but actually honesty and straight dealing goes a little bit deeper than just operating within the values of the business, because I'm talking really here about the ability to be candid and open, and I suppose to be able to speak truth to power to some degree. And again, this goes back to that reciprocity, but they have to be psychologically safe to speak truth to power, but they also need to do it. And then the fifth thing is they need to, at all times, adopt a learning mindset. They need to have that growth mindset, the ability to actually show up and constantly challenge themselves and question themselves and improve on what they're doing. So that's really the balance between the two sides of this equation, the yin and the yang of this thing. And the employer-employee relationship is something that is fundamental to the success of a business. If you simply hire people and just expect them to be able to do a job, no matter what their past experience might tell you about their competencies, then you're to some extent likely to be setting them up to fail. So be really clear in your own mindset as an employer about what the employer-employee relationship should look like, but also be equally clear with the employee or prospective candidate, if they're still in the hiring process, about what that relationship needs to look like. That clarity, that candor, that openness then sets out the stall for the way that you'll be managing them, hopefully for many years to come, if the relationship is successful. Happy hiring.